the Hunter is the final film in the Sony Spider-Man-less spin-off universe. This film is directed by J.C. Shandor, who's coming off of directing Triple Frontier for Netflix back in 2019. Kraven in this movie is played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, who is trying to escape the past of his father's criminal life, who is played by Russell Crowe. But he goes into action on the hunt as his brother Dimitri, is played by Fred Hetchinger, is taken away by the Rhino, who's played by Alessandro Nivola. Also in the movie is Ariana DeBose as Calypso, someone who might have helped Sergei in his early life and now is back to repay the favor. Also in the film in a major role is Christopher Abbott as the Foreigner. The film is 2 hours and 7 minutes long and is rated R. Welcome back to a brand new review here at Max Talks Movies. My name is Max Dinnenberg. We're talking Kraven the Hunter. So if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and ring that bell for notifications. I do movie and TV show reviews, out of theater reactions, box office breakdown shows, and movie franchise rankings, which will be coming this week for the Sony Spider-Man-less franchise. We're going to break down my ranking of those films later this week. So if you're new, please subscribe and ring that bell for notifications. Get us closer to 270 subscribers. Comment down below. What are your thoughts on Kraven the Hunter? If you saw it, do you not like it? Do you like it? Do you wish Sony continued on? Or are you happy this is the end of this franchise? Also, please hit the thumbs up button. That is how you support this channel. So I was not very excited for Kraven the Hunter. I've not been a big fan of this spin-off world. I think there's only been one, in my opinion, okay movie in this whole spin-off franchise for Sony over the last 6 years. And hearing the Rotten Tomatoes, but I didn't like sit down and read a review or watch a review, so I didn't know the specifics, which I don't like to do at all for any movie. So the fact that it was R got me excited. I'm a big Aaron Taylor Johnson fan. I've been trying to get him on people's radars for a decade now, maybe over a decade. So I've been trying to get people on board with him. So I was happy to see him get this lead role. But I am sadly to report that this movie is as bad, if not worse, than advertised. This is a really terrible movie that is on really the same wavelength of Sony's first film they released this year in the franchise, in the Spider-Man spin-off franchise this year with Madam Web. And I didn't think we could reach a low like Madam Web again. Not just that, we reached it in the same year for the same franchise with Kraven. And this has very similar issues to Madam Web. Now, I guess you can compare. This movie has a lot more action scenes, and it being rated R, there's a little bit more blood. For it being rated R, they still don't really show too much of these violent kills. I wish they kind of just went all out. If you're going to get the R rating, there should be no holding back on the violence. And there's even a scene where Kraven's punching someone to death, and we cut away once he starts doing it. Like, it's rated R. Let's see it. But while it has more action scenes, it has very similar problems, which is that very similar, which I don't think is a big problem for superhero movies at all. This movie takes itself very seriously, but the problem is you need a really fascinating story with good character development, good acting, good just overall movie making to get me on board. But sadly, it is tough to find any positives in one of those departments. At times, this movie is extremely boring. At other times, it is laugh out loud, embarrassing moments after embarrassing moments for the movie where I have laughed. It's been hard to find a time where I've laughed this hard in a theater in a long time. I mean, I was laughing really hard towards especially the third act. And this one fight scene that happens in the third act is so laughably terrible. I could not contain my laughter. I am someone who reads the comic books, is very much superheroes, a big part of my life, especially covering it. And I grew up with this. Spider-Man's my favorite superhero of all time. And I love the Rogues Gallery of Spider-Man. I was not hesitant. I was one of the people who actually excited to see a spin-off movie that made sense. But now as someone who cares so much about Spider-Man and the world and these characters, these have kind of been, if you're a Spider fan, at times offensive movies as it pertains to your fandom of Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man too much and to see some of these characters get their first big screen, especially Kraven the Hunter, who, yes, isn't this top tier Spider-Man villain, but a very underrated villain in the comics, who even got a really good role in the Spider-Man 2 PS5 game, which I really loved. That this is the first live action movie adaptation of this character. And a lot of these superhero characters in this movie is extremely disappointing. Didn't know we could go worse than Paul Giamatti's Rhino in Amazing Spider-Man 2 10 years ago, but we have with Alessandro Nivola, who I've seen in a lot of things, is a very good actor, but sadly is really bad in this movie as the Rhino. The CGI work for that character is horrifically bad. Also, as you keep going, we'll go to the main character first. Actually, let's do that. Aaron Taylor Johnson, well cast as Kraven. He's fine in the movie. I think he does the best he can. He's a likable lead, but still, this movie, like all the other Sony films, feel like the movie They shot it. They had a lot of different screenplay writers. They had 3 different screenplay writers for the film. They had all these ideas, and then Sony had their ideas in post-production and chopped this movie into shreds. And once again, we have an outrageous amount of ADR. And ADR is used for every movie. And ADR is where, at times, if there's a scene that they want either resaid, retold, or for background information, for like a narration, they go to ADR. Every movie does that. But Sony seems to be doing it to an excessive amount. Madam Web, the villain, would talk, and then the ADR would not match what the actor said on the day. And once again here, there is an outrageous amount of ADR, and it is bad. Like, when you can tell that something they're shooting on the day and then someone's talking and that's not what they said, when it's that obvious, that's a bad thing. There's also a character who his bit is he does impressions of other characters, but it's clearly not. He's just talking while the actual actor is voicing over the person in ADR, which I thought was absolutely stupid and didn't get the point of that bit. Also on a character level, this is one of the best ensembles, probably is, for a Sony Spider-Man film when you have Aaron Taylor Johnson, then Oscar-winning actors with Ariana DeBose and Russell Crowe, and this is what you get. Ariana DeBose is such a waste in this movie, and I feel so bad for her. She has not been picking great projects post West Side Story, and I think people forget how she's one of the most talented people in Hollywood today, and she's whatever in this movie, but her character, there's a flashback scene and characters will just continue to tell you that she is Calypso, and then she just feels like the most meaningless plot of a part of the film, and her part of the movie feels the most edited out. It feels like there were bigger chunks of the movie where she was like a heavy focus in the film, but we don't just see that in the movie. She pops in and then disappears, pops back in, disappears. I just feel like she could have been easily the second lead of the movie, but you don't really feel like that. And then Russell Crowe, who's really been picking some bad projects over the last 5 to 10 years. He's also, so many scenes feel cut, but you just don't feel that great bond at all between Russell Crowe, Aaron Taylor Johnson, or even Fred Hetchinger. There's so many missteps here. Yes, the action's whatever, but there's bad CGI, bad ADR work. The acting from some of the best actors in Hollywood is atrocious at times in this movie. Cheesy lines and a story that I just don't care about, and another studio meddling from Sony where it feels like they chopped this movie into pieces. So overall, this is an absolute whimper on an awful Sony Spider-Man spin-off franchise, where it's on the level of Madam Web and Morbius, which is something I was not expecting when I saw the first trailer for this movie. So overall, guys, I'm going to give Kraven the Hunter a 0.5 out of 5, a 13. I'll say, 12%. What are your thoughts on Kraven the Hunter? Let me know in the comment section down below. Like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.